All right, let's talk economics. You hear these two big words thrown around all the time, right? Micro and macro. They sound kind of intimidating, but trust me, they're not. By the end of this, you'll see they're just two different ways of looking at the exact same world. So let's dive in and break it down.
So, let's start with a question that seems a little weird. What on earth does your family's budget, groceries, rent, that kind of thing, have to do with something huge like the national unemployment rate? One's personal, the other's a massive headline, but believe it or not, they are deeply, deeply connected. And figuring out that connection is really the key to understanding how the whole economy works.
Okay, to really get a grip on this, let's use a super simple analogy that'll stick with you. Think of microeconomics as studying one single tree. You're looking at its health, its branches, how many leaves it has. But macroeconomics, that's when you step way back and look at the entire forest, the overall climate, the health of all the trees combined, and the big patterns you can only see from a distance.
So let's start by using that zoom lens. We're going to zoom all the way in. It's kind of wild when you think about it. Every single major economic trend, every stock market boom, every recession, it all boils down to one simple, fundamental building block: a person or a single company making a choice. That's it. It all starts there. And that right there, that focus on the individual choice, brings us to our first lens. Welcome to the world of micro. So, what is microeconomics really? Well, in a nutshell, it's all about the small-scale parts of the economy. It's the study of you, me, our households, and the businesses we deal with every single day. It's economics at a level you can actually see and touch.
And the questions it asks are things we think about all the time. Microeconomics is what's behind questions like, how is my salary determined? Or why does a company price a new phone the way it does? It even gets into why you might pick one brand of coffee over another. It's all about supply and demand for one specific thing, or how a single family maps out their budget. It's the study of those individual trees.
But, of course, a single tree doesn't make a forest, right? So what happens when we start to pull back and zoom out?
I mean, think about it. What happens when you take every one of those individual family budgets, all of those company pricing decisions, and all of our personal shopping habits, and you add them all up? Well, the picture changes completely.
And that is when we step out of the weeds and into the world of macro. See, macroeconomics flips the script. It's a top-down view. It's not interested in your individual budget. It's looking at the country's gross domestic product, or GDP. It's not about the price of one product. It's about inflation across the entire nation. This is the study of the whole forest. Honestly, this might be the absolute best way to think about it. It's the difference between me and we. Microeconomics is asking, how do I make a decision? How do I make money? Macroeconomics zooms out and asks, how do we, as a society, create wealth? What's the result of all our decisions put together? And the questions macro asks, well, they are massive. We're talking about the huge forces that shape all of our lives. What causes something like inflation or widespread unemployment? What actually makes an entire country's economy grow? How do big government decisions or changes in interest rates ripple through everything?
So you might be thinking, okay, got it, two totally separate things. But not so fast. The reality is they are so deeply connected that you really can't understand one without understanding the other.
For the longest time, economics was pretty much just microeconomics. But then the 1930s and the Great Depression happened. Suddenly you had this massive, devastating unemployment that the old micro-theories just couldn't explain. They didn't have the tools. So an economist named John Maynard Keynes came along and developed a whole new way of looking at the economy as a whole system. And just like that, the field of macroeconomics was born. Okay, let me give you a perfect real-world example of how this two-way street works. Let's say at the macro level, the central bank raises interest rates to fight inflation. That's a huge economy-wide decision. But how does it actually work? Well, it works at the micro level. All of a sudden, it becomes more expensive for you to get a mortgage or a car loan. So you and millions of other people decide to hold off on those big purchases. And when you add up all those individual micro decisions, you get a macro outcome. Spending across the country slows down, which helps cool off inflation. See? It's a loop.
So when it all comes down to it, this isn't a competition. It's not about which one is better or more important.
They're just two different lenses for looking at the exact same complicated world. As Investopedia puts it,
They are interdependent and they complement each other. To really see the full picture, you need both. You've got to be able to zoom in on that single tree and then zoom right back out to see the whole forest.
So from now on, the next time you see a news story about the economy, whether it's about inflation rates or a single company's prices, you'll have both lenses. You'll be able to ask yourself, are we talking about a tree here, or are we talking about the forest? And maybe most importantly, how do the two connect?